This is the Clyde at Glasgow, a hustling, bustling waterway given over to trade, commerce and industry. Cranes, wharves and warehouses crowd both banks of the river at Glasgow, where the Clyde becomes one of the world's great waterways.
Clyde was once the epicenter of shipbuilding in the world, but unfortunately that declined along with the other heavy industries that supplied a lot of the shipbuilding and locomotive building in the area. So by the 1980s there was actually quite a lot of derelict land and unemployment in the area. In 2003 a formal plan was launched to regenerate the river with some pretty long-term objectives of creating a lot of new jobs, creating a lot of new homes, creating a lot of new commercial retail and leisure space. To date there are about 300 different projects. About 70% of those, fortunately, are now complete or very near completion. The new Riverside Museum that opened on the 21st of June in 2011 already seen double the amount of visitors that typically would have visited the old Transport Museum.
Obviously, when it was planned 5 or 6 years ago, it was hoped that Glasgow Harbour would have extended and a new retail area would have been built adjacent to the site of the Riverside Museum. But as things have become more financially difficult over the last few years, none of that's gone ahead. I mean, the idea of having someone like Zaha Hadid design that building can potentially make a difference, and certainly we've found in other cities, for instance in Bilbao, where the design of the museum there by Frank Gehry really transformed that city. And I suppose Glasgow's hope is that by having signature architects like Zaha Hadid design the occasional building, and obviously Norman Foster's designed both the SECC building, which exists at the moment, and the one that's being constructed just now, then the hope is that Glasgow have a number of buildings by signature architects that will show the significance that we give to architecture and design within the city. The BBC building is a very simple but very fine building. The Science Centre and the Tower are both interesting structures. The Tower was actually a design originally for St Enoch Square about 10 years earlier than it was constructed. But somewhere down the line the city decided to move the building down to the site beside the Science Centre. So we've ended up with a collection or selection of buildings along the riverside, and if you look at Glasgow Harbour, something again quite different a bit further down the Clyde. And I suppose it will take time to slowly fill all the gaps, and we'll eventually create something that's a bit more homogeneous.
Squinty Bridge, as it's affectionately now known in Glasgow, was first completed in October 2006. And indeed it's the first road bridge over the Clyde to have been built since the Kingston Bridge opened. I can't quite remember when the Kingston Bridge was, but I think it was late 60s, early 70s. The Squiggly Bridge, as it's nicknamed now, again formal name, I think it's the Broomielaw Tradeston Footbridge. That was opened in May 2009. And it's really helped to connect the North Bank to the South Bank, obviously, but it's connected the working community of the International Financial Services District with the South Side and Tradeston, and it's become particularly popular with walkers and cyclists.
Originally, with the Squiggly Bridge, there was an open architectural competition, the result of which was that there was a very fancy design by Richard Rogers which won the competition. But I think it proved that in the end that bridge was very complex and very expensive to construct, which is why Glasgow City Council adopted the more pragmatic approach of the design and build tender that was subsequently issued, and the result was that the Squiggly Bridge was actually designed by a Danish architect, Dieter Vising, along with, as I say, Halcro, the engineering practice.
We've got a very, very good website that's constantly updated. It's called ClydeWaterfront.com. You can also go to, particularly if you're interested in what's happening in Glasgow, you can go to seeglasgow.com. There's also glasgowlife.com, and if you put a / and then Riverside, that can give you information about the new Riverside Museum. I would argue quite strongly that the money spent by the private and public sectors has really been worth it, and it's helped transform the River Clyde. Job's not done yet, but we're well on our way.